Hello race fans, I'm Justin with NRN, and well, the Texas race is over and we now have another contender who has punched his ticket to Homestead in just 2 weeks, and that driver is Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick wins at Texas and secures him a spot in the fight at Homestead against Kyle Busch, who of course punched his ticket last week in Martinsville. So now we have Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick, plus Martin Truex Jr., the dominating 78 team, is able to get in on points alone, which is equally as impressive, thinking in this round right now, at this stage in the playoffs, he's able to get in on points. That should make some guys kind of nervous. So there's 3 out of the 4 drivers right there who we now know, which means there's only one more spot available amongst the rest of the contenders in this round of 8. 3 of those are now guaranteed. So Phoenix should be rather interesting. Right now, Brad Keselowski holds that last spot in the playoffs. He's sitting in 4th place, but he doesn't have a huge margin of lead over, I think it's Denny Hamlin is right behind him. Of course, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, and Jimmie Johnson are other guys who are trying to get in. But Jimmie Johnson had kind of a rough race today. He finished way back, a couple of laps down, and, well, it's not looking good for Jimmie Johnson trying to go for 8th. He was actually one of the guys that I thought would make it to that final round, but after the race today, it's looking like he needs a win at Phoenix. And you know what? I just don't think that he's strong enough to do that. You know, we always see Jimmie Johnson start the year off good, which he started 2017 off really well with a couple of wins. And he always goes into kind of a slump over the summer. That's nothing new. That usually happens every season. But as the season goes on, when it gets down to this latter part of the season and the playoffs begin, that's when that 48 team really comes alive, and he and Chad can now start putting together some really strong races. Well, that just hasn't happened. It hasn't happened, and today, more bad luck from the 48 team. This was a track, remember, I think I talked about after the Martinsville race that I thought that he could really go to dominate, possibly pick up the win. You know, he's won at Texas 7 times, was looking for his 8th win at Texas, and I thought he could win number 8 and then go on and maybe fight for that 8th championship. But man, he got nowhere near having a good race today. It started out bad and it never got good. It only went downhill from there. So he struggled today. Interesting, Kyle Larson actually led most of stage 2. He wound up crashing at the end, but Kyle Larson had a really good run today, and I thought, how interesting would that be if Kyle Larson was able to come away with a win after being eliminated because of that engine trouble back in Kansas, which took him out of the fight. I thought, how interesting would that be if he was actually able to win that, thinking that he could have gone on to Homestead had he won the race and still been in contention, but that didn't happen. He put the car in the fence, and that ended the race for him. You know, overall, I thought the Texas race was pretty good. It wasn't as exciting, the racing was. It wasn't as exciting, and I think maybe it was because they were going so fast. I know Denny Hamlin talked this week that he was kind of nervous about the speeds they were carrying. They were going 200 plus miles per hour into the corners, around 1.5 miles at Texas. I mean, shoot, Kurt Busch, when he set the pole speed, it was an average lap time of 200.5 miles per hour. So, I mean, that is flying around here. And they just did a track repave, and there was only one groove. That Larson lane that they talk about, the high line, never came in. Most of the guys today were racing on the bottom, and that didn't really produce some exciting racing for the most part. But overall, the end of the race was actually pretty good. I was watching the race from Hooters, actually, tonight, and when the race got restarted with Martin Truex in the lead with just a handful of laps to go, about 20-some, and he was leading, I had no idea that Kevin Harvick would catch him, but Kevin Harvick did. Kevin Harvick reeled him in, passed him, and then went on to win the race by a pretty big margin. He actually started driving away from the 78, and as I said, I was watching the race from Hooters, and it made me drop my chicken wing because I was a little surprised at that. I mean, think about what we saw tonight. Kevin Harvick was able to run down the 78 at 1.5 miles in a Ford. And pass the Toyota and go on to win the race. You know, Brad Keselowski has been talking all year long that the Fords have been at a disadvantage over the Toyotas, and tonight a Ford ran down the Toyota. and passed him. Now, I'm not sure if that's because Martin Truex Jr. didn't want to push the issue, knowing that he's guaranteed to go to Homestead with the points that he has. Maybe he didn't want to fight as hard for it, but I can't imagine him also moving out of the way so that another guy could go up there and claim a spot. Someone like Kevin Harvick, too. But if this is foreshadowing of what we could see down in Homestead, tonight a Ford was able to run down the Toyota of Martin Truex Jr. and pass him. I don't know. Have the Fords at Stewart-Haas found something? Have they found a little speed? I don't know. Maybe what we saw tonight could be some of the action that we see at Homestead. I mean, maybe they're not going to make it as easy for the 78 team as everybody thinks. I know that the 78 is still favored to win. They're a very strong team. They finished second at Martinsville. They finished second tonight. But I don't know. Maybe they're not going to be as strong when they get down there. Maybe someone has something for them. But let's go ahead and take a look real quick at the top 20 finishers of the AAA Texas 500. Of course, Kevin Harvick would win the day in his Ford for Stewart-Haas Racing after starting in third. Martin Truex Jr. would come home in second. Denny Hamlin would be third. And Matt Kenseth fourth, who announced this week that this would be his last season of racing. He could not get a ride anywhere, and he didn't want to settle for just a ride, so he's going to be out at the end of the year, so these could be his last couple of races we've seen Matt Kenseth in. He finishes fourth today. Brad Keselowski would be fifth. He came together with Kyle Busch on lap 1 and had to pit. Going a lap down, he fought his way all the way back today to finish fifth. Like I said, he's sitting in fourth right now in the points, so he's just in, but not by a huge margin. So he really needs a win down in Phoenix to punch his ticket and not to worry about it. Ryan Blaney would finish in 6th place. That's a good job from him today, a championship contender. Joey Logano needing a strong run. He would start 36th today. He finishes 7th. Chase Elliott finishes 8th. Kurt Busch would be 9th. And Eric Jones would round out the top 10. Casey Kane would be 11th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in 12th. Austin Dillon 13th. Daniel Suarez would be 14th. Eric Almirola in 15th. AJ Allmendinger would finish in 16th. Danica Patrick with another strong run today in 17th. Jamie McMurray in 18th. Kyle Busch, who also had a lot of trouble today, would finish in 19th. But like I said, he doesn't need to because he's already in. He really doesn't have to race as hard these next 2 races because he's guaranteed a spot. And rounding out the top 20 finishers, Ryan Newman would be 20th. That is the top 20 of the AAA Texas 500. Of course, this coming week will be the race at Phoenix. It's the last race of this round, and then the very next race will be the championship race at Homestead. So what can we see at Phoenix? Well, Kevin Harvick was the driver I picked to win Phoenix. He's already won. Can Brad Keselowski keep that spot for 4th? There's only one spot available now. Martin Truex Jr. is in, Kyle Busch is in, Kevin Harvick is in. We know those 3 will compete for a championship, but there's only one more spot open. Brad Keselowski is currently sitting in it. There are right now no Chevys. What if Brad Keselowski was to get it? There'd be no Chevys in the championship race. I can't remember a time where the Chevys didn't compete for a championship in the 4. Say Brad Keselowski gets in, there's 2 Toyotas, there's 2 Fords. Even if Denny Hamlin is able to somehow gain those points over Brad Keselowski, has a better race than Brad Keselowski, that's still 3 Toyotas, 1 Ford. The best Chevy right now, the best shot that Chevy has to get into the championship race would be Chase Elliott, I think. Unless Jimmie Johnson can really turn it around and win. I mean, the only way Jimmie Johnson's getting in is if he goes down there and wins Phoenix. But nothing indicates to me, from what I've seen over the last couple of races, that Jimmie Johnson has a car capable of going down to Phoenix and just flat out winning it. So Chase Elliott seems to be the best hope that Chevy has to get into the top 4, and I don't see Chase Elliott getting in. As much as I like Chase Elliott, and as much as I want Chase Elliott to do good, I don't see Chase Elliott getting into that top 4. So it could be that it's just going to be Toyotas and Fords. I actually think Brad Keselowski can get in. Brad Keselowski has run well at Phoenix before. He's pretty decent at the track, so I actually think that he can get in and be that 4th guy to compete down at Homestead. But we'll just have to wait and see this weekend at Phoenix. The race to see who gets down to Homestead. But that's going to do it for my race recap. It was a pretty decent race, like I said, up until the end. Pretty surprising outcome that Kevin Harvick was able to do that. That's why they race, because you just never know with these kinds of things. I'll see you in Phoenix next week, though. I think it should be a pretty good one. I'm Justin with NRN, and thanks for watching.